We'll call this regular City Council meeting to order on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Present.
Mr. Bateman?
Present.
Mr. Welch?
Present.
Mr. Parrott?
Present.
Mr. Downs?
Present.
Mr. Keller?
Present.
Mr. Haneke?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under public participation, Abby and John.
Hello again, everybody. Hey, how's everybody doing? Good. No, I don't mind staying.
Yeah, I'm
You
fine.
sit down.
I'm good.
I appreciate you staying. Guys?
Need to be in front of the microphone.
Just make sure you speak into the. So you might have to sit.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I think you all know why I'm here, hopefully tonight. You got the proposal, maybe a little late, but you got it today, and hopefully you read through it. I'm here tonight because I really need to light a fire under you guys so we can get this going. Either yay or nay. It doesn't matter, because we feel it's best for the community that you would sign it over to us. That way it allows us to use the OSLAD grants, which we have a list of all the park districts that just got it. And the next one is in June. So we started, just let me refresh you, we started once again with our grant writer, and it's quite a process, guys. It takes some time. And you have to have public hearings, you have to have surveys, you have to have photos, you have to have everything, and this guy's going to do it for us. But we need to know whether this is a good deal for everyone and you're going to okay it or not. I would like to see it go through. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not the director anymore, guys, but I still have a big heart for the community. Abby's taking over. I think all of you know that. So I don't know what to tell you other than I think it's a great benefit for the community. I don't have any magic up my sleeves or anything. I mean, it's just a pretty straightforward proposal. So we'd like to know by the end of the month, Abby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because-
if we could.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're here too to answer any questions that you guys have for us to kind of get this going.
Jeff.
Really no questions for you two. I'm in favor of this wholeheartedly. I think it's a good idea for the city. My question would be for our city attorney, Mr. Hoblet, what type of legal paperwork needs to be done with this, as far as, obviously we have an ordinance that states that they're maintaining our parks. We'll have to somewhat reword that, I guess. And then I didn't know about, they talk about deeding it over. How's that?
I think it'd be essentially, there would essentially be a deed, like a version of a quitclaim deed that would essentially quitclaim any interest that we have over to the Parks District for these properties. That is, if the city is desiring to do this. I think you mentioned previously that you couldn't turn around, the Park District itself cannot sell these properties. You can't see a profit on these type of things. But, you know, there would be a deed. There should be maybe an agreement that if this doesn't work out, that it should be at least some sort of contractual agreement that it would be deeded back to the city. If, like, say, these grants don't work out, or it's just not feasible on behalf of the Parks District. So there's that consideration as well. You guys, just out of curiosity, you guys say you're working for these grants, but there's nothing really set in stone as to whether or not you actually receive the grants until you really have the property in your hands, correct?
Correct. Yes, we can't. OSLAD grants do not apply to anything other than Park District ground.
Mm-hmm.
We're the only ones that can go into these grants. And like I said, they just gave out $30 million. Abby's got the list. It's a matching grant. Of course, we're not going to put all of our savings into it, but we want to have it in our 10-year master plan and to develop these parks. And once again, I don't think you guys are going to put any money into them. I mean, you haven't over the years, which is fine. But here's an opportunity, and I'm not saying we're going to put swimming pools in every park either, but we're going to try to develop them, you know, so we can be proud of them. And it's just a great opportunity. So, you know, it's up to you guys. You pretty much know the deal here.
Sam?
I had a couple questions. You already currently maintain the 4 Lincoln City parks. Are those the only parks you maintain, or are there others?
Well, we have 3 of our own. So we have Memorial, Lynn and Fink is a small park, and Exchange Park up north of Lincoln by Jefferson Street Church.
How much money, grant-wise, are you looking? If you did get these 4 parks, how much?
Well, Abby, you want to answer that? I can't really tell you until we start the process with the grant writer to see what our needs are, and it won't be 400,000. I can tell you that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But
No.
Abby's the boss now. I shouldn't even be talking. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think regardless of if we get the grant or not, I feel it's best that we do get these parks, just because we are the park district and we're the ones that, you know, I feel we want to put back into the park districts, create a plan for the long term. We've already been maintaining them, so I think, like John said, it's in everyone's best interest, but that's why we're here tonight.
Walt?
Yeah, as far as the grants is a grant for a specific park, or is it for all the parks?
It's a grant for recreation. So basically, we have to come up with a plan, a master plan on how we want to incorporate recreation back into the community. And I feel that we can do that through our parks. We can put up pickleball courts, we can put in splash pads, we can do ADA all accessible parks, which I think would be nice. So these are just some of the things or options that we could have if these parks were ours to just improve on throughout the years.
So what do they use to gauge as far as how much money you get? I mean, is it square footage? I mean, for each grant?
There's a lot of things that come into play, Walt. It's number of parks that you have, what you already have in place. It's kind of a point system, you know. If you satisfy this area, you get so many points, and but it could go for any parks. And I don't see us putting anything. Here I go again, saying Abby. Our parks that we own, they're pretty much up to snuff, except, you know, Memorial, you could put a lot of things in out there. But the city parks we could develop, guys. I mean, it's pretty simple.
It's really just to give, I mean, it's for the community. This is also the same grant too that got us our pool. So if that kind of puts it in perspective to you, so.
Beth, Sam, and Tracy.
Excuse me. I just wanted to ask, as far as like patrolling or you know, to maintain the safety and the quality of the park after you get there, after you get that point, do you expect us to maintain, or what's the jurisdiction for us to go on, our police department to go on, or a fire department or whatever? You have no problem with that? We could have that in the agreement?
I don't see anything changing in the police department's area. They're still going to travel around the park, you know, in the streets, and if there's something silly going on, of course they'll stop, you know.
Okay. Right.
But other than that, I don't see anything here.
Thank you.
Sam?
Just for clarification for anyone who may be watching this, if you did get this grant, you would pursue a wheelchair swing, a wheelchair park?
Yeah, I mean, it would be definitely something that we would consider. I think it's a great thing to put back in our community.
That's kind of how the grants operate, Sam. They're looking for diversity, and that's one of the things. If you throw that in that nobody else has, there's a lot of points involved there. So you build your points, and then they award the grants. You can get up to $700,000, Walt, if you wanted it, but we're not, you know, in a position to match that. So, but we do have some money.
Tracy?
So, could the arrangement be that they were deeded over pending grant approval?
No. I don't think so, Trace, because we have to have ownership before we can even put them in the grant agreement.
So then, I'm gonna ask the hard question here. What is the guarantee that you guys will not take these parks and then the grant falls through and then you decide you want to develop them and you increase the taxes on the taxpayers to do it? Because you are a taxing body.
Yeah, I don't see the taxes, I don't see doing that. If you don't get the grant this year, you apply for it next year. But I have confidence in this fellow that we hired because he works with Springfield Park District. And, you know, believe it or not, it's an in club. So you got somebody in there working for you, you're gonna get the grant. But you have to do everything right. But we have to own the parks before we can do anything.
So are you opposed to language being put in the agreement that you would not raise taxes on them?
We have no plans to raise taxes.
Well, you guys won't always be there either. Neither will we.
We haven't raised taxes since our bond implement back in whatever it was, 98 or whatever.
Well, I just happened to be looking at my tax bill today, and between the park district and schools, they're the biggest taxing bodies in this town.
Yeah, not the park district.
You're one of them, though.
We gotta fall in there somewhere, Trace.
I know, and I'm just looking out for taxpayers too, because you're asking us for city property
Right.
to do it, and I want to make sure that in the actions of supporting this effort, that we don't indirectly set something up that penalizes taxpayers as well. I know you think the likelihood of that isn't true, but
I've never even had that thought in my mind, but, you know, I understand what you're saying. But why would we want to raise the taxes? I mean, we're going for grants, we're not going for raising taxes.
well, nobody wants to raise taxes.
We're not going
It just
to,
happens.
I'm telling you, you know, we're not in that position to have to do that. So,
Well, that would be my concern with this arrangement, for the record.
Questions or discussion? Steve?
I was just going to say, they wouldn't necessarily have to have these properties to raise the taxes on the park district.
that's true.
No, but if they have intentions of developing these pieces of land when they get them, and they don't have grant money to do it, I'm not saying that they would do it, but I'm just saying that would be a likely scenario to raise taxes to fund the development of them. That's kind of where my mind's at on that.
I don't think they'll get developed if we don't get the grant.
That'd be bad. That would be bad.
We would never do that.
PR on their part, personally.
I can remember when we initiated our bonds and it raised the taxes, and let me tell you, I don't want to go through that again. I listened to a lot of complaints, and we don't have to do that. So, I understand.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying let's talk that one through.
Yeah. Well, you guys just figured out. I mean, we just need to know by the end of the month, so we can let our grant writer start putting things together here, because he already has. So,
Okay.
Can you let us know then, hopefully?
So we're going to place this on the next next week?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be on next week's agenda.
Okay. Anything else?
Is there any other Beth?
Abby, would you mind saying what your last name is, and welcome to our community for doing this?
Yep. It's O'Brien.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And ladies.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Jason?
Good evening. I'm Jason Van Winkle, president of Lincoln Firefighters Local 3092. I have a statement. On January the 15th, Lincoln Firefighters Local 3092 had a meeting with Mrs. Cavalman, Mrs. Bates, and Mr. Heineke to discuss the March 1st changing of health insurance benefits for employees of Lincoln. I informed the board that the proposed changes of health insurance would be a violation of Article 22 of the collective bargaining agreement between Lincoln Firefighters Local 3092 and the City of Lincoln. Article 22 states that the insurance plan will include a $1,500 high deductible plan. The new alternate plans do not have that $1,500 deductible option. The plan that is being brought forward to us that the council has approved is a $2,800 deductible. We asked the city board members at that time to keep the plan with a $1,500 option. Mrs. Calvin at that time informed Local 3092 board that the city council would have to make that decision, so that's why I'm here. I requested that the plan not be changed on March 1st, to leave it as is with the renewal plan with a $1,500 deductible plan. As per Article 22 of the collective bargaining agreement, the city has until February the 14th to make a decision on this matter before it can be submitted for arbitration. And Local 3092 feels that arbitration will be undue cost for both the city and the union. So we're trying to alleviate from going to that issue. Thank you.
Does the fire union have a proposal to come up with $144,000 the city would have to come up with to go back to this plan?
No.
So what would you like us to do?
Lincoln firefighters, in the past, we had to negotiate this contract, and there's been several opportunities to change the carrier or the plan, and it hasn't come to fruition since 2011. So, I mean, we understand there's an increase. It's going to be an increase out of our pockets as well. We understand it's an increase on the city, but all members of our union and other unions all agree that that change is too much, vast increase in deductible.
But how would you like for the 8 of us to explain to every citizen in the city of Lincoln, not just the members of your union, how to come up with $144,000?
$144,000, if that's the cost of it, I mean, I guess it will come out of the city coffers. That's what I guess.
It could. It would be the employment of one person from every union would come up with $144,000. This is a real cost. Insurance goes up, and up. And I understand the union negotiations, but I've also been in plenty of union negotiations where when there's a hardship, you open up that article. That's $144,000 is nothing to sneeze at. So we can sit here and just demand the insurance, but you got to help us figure out how to pay for it.
We'll discuss that. That was brought up in our meeting, and I was told to come here and ask you guys, and we asked to keep it the same.
And I'm asking you, what's your suggestion for coming up with $144,000?
Like, I don't have a suggestion to come up with $144,000. It is the burden of the city to come up with that. They show financial hardship, and I guess that's what, if $144,000 is a financial hardship, then I guess then that will be proven at arbitration. I guess, if that's where you want to go with it.
Other comments or discussion?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public participation? Okay, moving down to the consent agenda then, we have the payment of bills as well as the approval of minutes December 2nd, 2019 regular city council meeting, January 6th, 2020 regular city council meeting, January 14th, 2020 committee of the whole meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Sorry, Trace made the motion, Ron seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Under ordinance and resolution, we have the resolution proclaiming the week of January 27th through the 31st, 2020 as Catholic School Week in the city of Lincoln.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Kathy Horn made the motion, Tracy seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Resolution providing a 3% increase in salary for the city administrator retroactive to July 17th, 2019.
So move.
Second.
Ron made the motion, Kevin seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes.
Ordinance establishing the cannabis dispensary licensing fee at $5,000 annually. Kevin?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Kevin made the motion, Kathy Horn seconded. Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this last week, and I think we all realize when it comes to this licensing fee, as we talked about, we're kind of all shooting in the dark because this is new ground that we're treading across the state. And the justification for $5,000 seemed to rest based upon the conversation that I picked up on several factors. One, because it was just a number we threw out. Second, it was a good way perhaps to bring up some revenue for the city. And third, it would prevent any dispensaries who are not serious about it, and it would detract them from obtaining a license. And I suppose to that end, if, again, as we talked about, if the goal here is to make tax revenue come profit from a business, I don't know if that's the correct avenue to take. And secondly, again, I think we talked about this last week, but if anybody checks out the licensing fee for approval from the state of Illinois, they have to be serious. They wouldn't be doing this. So to make this more business friendly, I would propose we amend this to $2,500.
I was actually going to make the same suggestion for a couple of reasons. I've had several people reach out to me that were surprised that the city wanted it at $5,000, if not higher. Said it was not business friendly. I mean, as a business owner, I wouldn't want to come to Lincoln and pay a $5,000 fee right off the bat. I understand some may not agree with it. I'm not a user. I don't plan to use it, but it is a way I think I also have to look at this is going to bring more money into the community and other venues as well. I mean, restaurants, gas stations, hotels, things like that. So I think we really need to take a step back and look at what is more respected, I believe, and what the community has voiced as well. So, Ron?
And to tag on that as well, I think I mentioned this last week, but the only figure I could find from another city who had proposed a licensing fee was Chicago, and that was a range of $500 to $1,500 based upon the size of the dispensary. And so we are far outpacing them. Granted, they have 7 dispensaries that they can license within their city. I think that's irrelevant. And so honestly, I'm proposing $2,500. Personally, I'd like to see it less than that, but I would settle $2,500.
Steve?
How much is for a liquor license?
25.
2,500. And why is it 2,500? I mean,
John?
Technically, it's 2,500 if you have gaming. So if you don't have gaming, then I believe it's 1,500. I believe it's quite a bit less.
I think it's 1,500 and 1,000 for gaming makes it 2,500.
But why? Is it because they can? Is it because it's a revenue for the city? Why do we have 1,500? Why don't we have 500? Heck, if the city of Chicago only has 500 for in some instances for a marijuana dispensary, why do we have 1,500? Why don't we make it 500? You know?
Make the motion.
I'm not going to. My point is just because the city's going to make some money off of this isn't a reason not to make money off of this. So if you're only going to have, as we talked before, a sole provider, then you're only going to have one opportunity to have that dollars come in. If we had issued 2, then you're having 5,000 come in because now you have 2 businesses.
Chuck?
I'm done.
Yeah, just to pick up on what Alderman Parrott has said, I think you're kind of giving away money here. I said this in the last meeting, the whole meeting, and I'll say it again. You're effectively granting a franchise to whoever, if anybody opens dispensary type business here. They're effectively getting a franchise because there's nobody else that's going to be able to compete with them if you only have one license. With liquor licenses, we all know that is, since they are unlimited, that's not the case. And they're still paying a substantial fee at $2,500 or $1,500, even at $1,500. Not to mention the extra costs that are going to be incurred to law enforcement and other things as a result of having this.
I understand that, but what incentive are we as a community giving to a business like this when they could go elsewhere, for less, I guess? I mean, I guess I look at it as I understand it's one single business, but that one business is going to bring a lot of extra business potentially into, the community. So, and that's the feedback that I've been getting, from the public as well. So I just wanted to voice that. Kevin?
Did you make the motion, Ron?
I did.
I second it.
The initial ones have to be withdrawn.
I'll withdraw.
Or no?
Amended it.
Oh, it was the same two. Okay.
It's been amended. So if you're withdrawing the previous ones, then essentially you're taking it off the table. It's on the table. We're just amending it now, so you don't need to recall the previous 2.
So it's amended to 2,500.
Yes.
Steve?
I would like to amend it to 10,000. Do we have anybody take it for 10? Question. If this was about money, and the city making money, does this council not vote to tax an increase on the sale for the city? Huh. That was to make money. Why did that council do that and then have issues with charging 5,000 for this?
Kevin Tracy.
I look at it as, if we want to make it the same as liquor, we should make it 1,500. The extra 1,000 is for your secondary business, which is gaming. So we're settling for 2,500 for a single business, which makes that the highest business license in the city of Lincoln. The 3% tax is what we put on the actual sale of that product. So we're basically allowing the business to open and hoping they sell product, and we would get the extra 3% off of that. That's the way I look at it. I've had plenty of people contact me and thought the 5,000 was a little high, especially after, I've searched, and Ron's correct. 1,500 is the highest I've found. Some don't even have a license fee. So I think 2,500 for a single business is the highest in the city, because the gaming at 2,500 is 2 businesses, your alcohol license and your gaming license.
Tracy.
So I actually happened to receive a call at 6:25 tonight from an individual who was asking questions about this topic. And he was asking where we were at. We are open to the idea of a dispensary, all of those questions we received. But in that conversation, going back to Ron's point, he said, well, I need to know where the city's at, because I am one of those individuals who is interested in applying to the state, and those are non-refundable fees that they pay, he said well in excess of $10,000 just to apply for the chance to come here. So in the event that he does get that, here's where my mind is at on this for what it's worth. The 3%, when I voted in favor of the 3%, it was because we recognize that there's going to be some increased law enforcement activities that are going to result with this coming to Lincoln, whether we have a dispensary or not. So the 3% will help pay for some of those incurred costs. Now, the council hasn't actually taken action to say specifically where that 3% would go, and I think we probably need to eventually. But I also go back to the 2,500 and being business friendly, and the 3% actually doesn't come out of the pocket of the operator of the dispensary. It comes out of the pocket of the customer. What we're talking about is the pocket of the business owner. So that's just where my mind's at on it, for what it's worth.
So this council would rather take a 3% from the citizens than from the business owner? Money from the business owner in the application. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, if you look at it from a very basic perspective. But again, my thought is that the 3% is going towards costs that we know we're going to have to incur. It's highly likely we're going to have to incur those. And that 3%, let's face it, some of these people, we've seen some of the receipts online, right, of what people are paying. It's an exorbitant fee. The 3% is just a small amount of what they're paying. So, yes, I guess where I'm going at with this, Steve, is yes, the 3% is coming out of the pockets of the customers who choose to do it, but I see that as a portion of the fee that they have to pay for the opportunity that the city is opening up for it to take place in the city, for what that's worth. The business itself, though, and I know we've only got one, and the treasurer has talked about a franchise. However, it's really, for me, the message that this sends to businesses and the people more than it is about the money itself. I think 2,500 is too high, but I also agree that it needs to be set at something significant, I suppose. So that's why I think 2,500 is fair.
Jeff?
This is an annual fee that's done by ordinance anyway. 6 months from now, a year from now, we can raise it. We can always raise it.
True.
So, just starting at a benchmark of 2,500, let's just start there. And again, we can go 3,000 next year, 4,000 year after, or whatever. That's up to the council. I mean, just bring a proposal, and it'd be up to the members up here to vote on it.
Other discussion? Okay. Roll call, please. You made,
500.
I made a motion.
Ron made the motion, Kevin seconded.
For 2,500.
Right.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
No.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes.
Down to treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. You've all received copies of this report, and you'll notice a couple of things there. The general fund balance that you see there is down a little bit from where it was a month ago, and that's the reason. The reason for that is during the month of December we had several bond payments that were made, which we always have at that time of the year. You'll also notice in the other accounts it looks like it is over $500,000 more. Before you get too excited about that, I'll tell you what that is. $500,000 of that is the bond proceeds, the 2019 series bond that we were working on in the fall. That bond has been issued, and if you look on the general ledger for the other accounts, you'll see Fund 43, and that's where the bond revenue is posted. And that's the general obligation bond that we have made it a practice to issue every 3 years for many, many years. The other thing that you want to notice there, and there are some attachments to show this too, are some of the tax revenues or revenue streams that we receive from the state. And you'll notice the municipal sales tax up considerably over what it was a year ago. It's $286,156. It was $267,, $222 for the same month, which has been the month of September. So we're up considerably for the year. Non-home rule sales tax, which, as I've said in the past, usually follows pretty closely with the sales. The last couple months it's been down a little bit and hasn't been down much. What that would indicate is there are some things that are subject to the state sales tax and the share of that tax that we receive that are not subject to the non-home rule sales tax. Still for the year, we're pretty close to where we were a year ago, within about $2,000. State income tax, there looks real good. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. Our figures for November month of liability, $94,961, which is up a little more than $12,000 over what we received a year ago for the same month. And you can see there we're up about $150,000 over where we were for the year to date. And then finally, the personal property replacement tax. You see there, that's a fund that the state has often used to pay other things in some of the past years, particularly when the Blagojevich and Quinn years, they kind of rated that and used that for a lot of state expenditures, and we didn't receive quite as much. You look there at 2016 in particular. After some of that was implemented, it was down to $310,000. It's up to $370,000, which is a lot more than it was for 2018. It's about $69,000 more. Keep in mind that not all of that is in the current fiscal year. What we have there is the calendar year to date, which is a complete calendar year, and it shows. Somebody asked this. I think it was probably Alderman Hofel. It's been a while ago. Why we go for January, March, April, May, July, August, October, December, and it looks like there are months missing from that table. There are not. That tax is not distributed every month. It's distributed only in the 8 months that you see there, which is why, unlike the other revenue streams, it's not distributed on a monthly basis. I would also point to page 2 of the report, and you'll see the investments. Considerable growth there. Stock market was good in December and continues to be so. Police pension fund, as I've said before, we struggled to get up over 10 million. We're 10,682,000. And now in the fireman's pension fund, for the first time, we're at we've gone over 6 million, 6,078,000. A lot of that is due to national trends, growth in the stock market. One final thing that I'd like to talk about, because I rarely talk about it, and there seems to be some misconceptions about it. If you look at the first page of the report, you'll see amount investments, $549,584. You can go back every month if you would like, and I've got them down in the office, and I think most of them are posted on the city website, or at least several years worth are. You'll see these investments. This started out initially with $300,000 in 2014, and then an additional $200,000 was added to that. So we put $500,000 in that. That's grown now to $549,584. This is money that is essentially part of the general fund. There seems to be misinformation circulating out there, and some of it by people who quite frankly, should know better. That this is some type of a rainy day fund or a slush fund or a secret account and nonsense like that. And it is not. This is money that is accessible within 1 to 5 days. It's a liquid asset, can be obtained if we need it in the general fund checking account can be done within 5 days. It's invested with IMET, which is the Illinois Municipal Fund. 2014, Sue McLaughlin was the city administrator. She and I, if you were here then, you know she and I did not agree on many things. But this was one thing that she suggested, and it was a very good idea. And I worked with her and Alderman Melody Anderson, who was at the time was one of the first board aldermen, and we shifted $500,000 from checking into this investment. But it's still an accessible part of the general fund. It's simply a fund balance. If you add together the money in the general fund checking, that $2,270,507 to the amount $549,584. In the investments, that's a total of $2,820,091. Now, it's almost $3 million. To kind of, get to the bottom line on this, if you had $3 million that you won it in the lottery, or you worked a lot of overtime, or, did well, your horses came in first, won the Breeders' Cup, or, however you think we got this money. But if you had this kind of money, would you put it all in your checking account? Anybody?
No.
I would hope not. If you do, that's not a good move. So we've got, of that 2.8 million plus, we've got 549,000 plus in checking. We really should move toward getting that closer to $1 million. You don't want to put, all of it in there, but we should put that in there. That would give us about, a third of it. And that's not something we want to probably get into tonight, but that's something we should consider. Again, keeping in mind that this is simply a fund balance. This is not any kind of an obscure account. It's all public. There are dozens of municipalities and counties, and I think townships too, in some cases, that have money invested with this. So it's a reputable investment. Our average for the year, for last year, we spent about $678,000 per month in expenditures. Given that, what we have here is, if you add these two together, we have about a little over 4 months, about 4 and 8 months worth of investment and checking in these accounts. Ideally, we should have that at least 6 months. That's not going to happen on its own. It's going to happen through sound investing, and this would be one way to approach that. I don't want to get too much into detail on that tonight unless you want me to do that, but I did want to clear up a lot of the misconceptions that there are about these funds. And that's all that I have.
Kevin and Beth?
I appreciate you clearing that up, Chuck, because quite honestly, I've heard the same things, and a lot of people have been wondering when you're going to drive the Rolls Royce into the parking lot instead of that red station wagon of yours.
I'm figuring it's got 150,000 miles or so to go on.
I appreciate you clarifying where the $500,000 in question is. It's not just in a brown paper bag somewhere. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Conzo, when did you say that 200,000 was put in there? The first
Those were, I think it seems like we started this in about June of 2014 with the 300,000. And that 200,000, I'd have to go back and look, but it was added within a few months. I'm guessing within 8 months of that.
Okay. And if the city got into really bad shape, I'm not asking how much of this would we want to tap into if we've got problems. We never know how this is going to.
Yeah, well, you see that general fund checking balance getting down real low, and I know you've seen that happen, and we had that recession in 2007 and 8, and for a while after that, we got down to where they had to do that. The city did have, this is before I was here, we had investments in Illinois funds, and I think you were here at that time, and that money had to be liquidated. 100% of it was liquidated. So you wouldn't do it until you got down to where you're, it's just like if you're at home, your checking account gets down to, where you're not going to be able to write the checks that you have to write. You take money out of a savings or out of an investment and move it into checking, but you wouldn't do it until you got to that point. We would hope that would not happen.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you very much. Mrs. Bateman?
In the month of December, we received $343,209.11 in sewer payments. Both prisons did pay in the month of December of $100,167.30. Just wanted to remind everyone that the new rates for the sewer bills will be going out at the end of January when we send the bills out, the last day of January. It goes up $5. Each level is $5 increase. Some people moved from when we did the average water reads. Some people moved up, some people moved down. There was roughly about 1,400 residents that changed levels, but it went both ways. It went up and down. So, but either way, your bill's going up $5 when you get it, and if it goes up more, it depends on which level you ended up in.
Any questions or discussion?
Steve, is there a way to find that out before the next bill? If residents wanted to call the city, or
They've come in when they've paid their bill this month. They've just asked, so they kind of know what to expect. Yeah, they've just called and the girls look it up and let them know.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, thank you very much. Department reports either on file or will be shortly. Under new business and communications, we have the approval of invoice number 71 from Hanson Professional Services for work on the Fish Street Road project in an amount not to exceed $22,957.61. Sam?
I'd like to make a motion to amend that to include invoice number 72 from Hanson for $1,987.27.
For a second.
Second.
Sam made the motion, Kevin seconded. Kevin?
Just for discussion purposes, do we know how much money we have spent on Fifth Street Road to nowhere? Quite honestly, it was a thorn in my side when I was at the county board, and it's a bigger thorn in my side now because I don't understand where we're going with this when we don't have the money to do it. I particularly don't understand why we are actually purchasing properties, paying for properties, on the hope and a dream that we might build something. I pretty much thought that you negotiate the property purchase, and if the project moves forward, then you would honor that agreement. I foresee 5, 10, 15 years from now, Walt's crew going out there and having to mow a 22-inch section of somebody's yard because we now own it, and they don't want to maintain it. I mean, I'm not understanding why we're doing this, and I'd really like to know what the dollar amount spent so far on this pipe dream is.
Beth, do you have an amount? Or do you have an amount? Or
No,
rough?
this will take years to probably figure this up, so, give me a little time, I'll try to work on it.
That's fine. I just made a comment. We don't need to look it up. We don't need to add any more burden. I'm just stating a complaint of my own and others.
Any other comment? Steve?
So is the total amount $24,857.61? Is that additional 1,900? What was the additional 1,900 for? Was that in there? I might have not read it yet.
It's for professional management, I believe, of the, I don't know if it was the survey.
Steve, did that answer your? Okay. Beth?
That will bring us up to date with what we owe them right now.
Are there anticipated future bills with them?
I don't think as much. This was for the design when we removed the bike path and added that portion in.
Kevin, just to kind of answer what you had said earlier, not either way or the other, but like those appraisals, of course, are only good for so long. So if you don't purchase them at that time, then you're going to have the expense of the other appraisals and property owners changing and all that good stuff. But I get what you're saying completely. But that's the only thing I can think of is one of the reasons why a lot of them were pursued. But I get it.
I understand that. It's just, if we had the money set aside to do it or had a realistic plan to do it, but what are we, 20 years into this thing now? And still no closer other than just a couple parcels. I don't expect the city administrator to dig into my question because it's a ridiculous ask. It's just, I just wanted to state that it's bothered me for years and it's going to bother me for years to come.
Beth?
I'll keep this short. By removing the bike path, we have lessened the cost to the city as far as on the back end. We had to pay for the redesign, but that will be caught up later, and we will be buying less property. So that will possibly move this process along a little faster.
Somebody else have their hand up? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes.
Approval of cancellation of contract between Nixle and the City of Lincoln for city public announcements.
So moved.
Second.
Steve made the motion, Jeff seconded. Chief, did you want to talk?
Well, I was just, if there was any questions, again, Nixle's not going away. If you have Nixle and you've already signed up for Nixle, Logan County can still hit your phone with that same information you put in. So you're not losing, the city residents, county residents aren't losing anything on this. Just our ability to send those messages won't be as easy now, but law enforcement still has that access. So,
Questions or discussion? Beth?
Just want to ask you again, how much did you estimate that we would be saving every year?
that's a $3,500 bill. So.
Anything further? Roll call, please.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Approval of revised Great Seal of the City of Lincoln.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ron made the motion, Steve seconded. Kevin?
Okay. I understand where everybody's coming from on this. We hold a special place in this universe with the christening of this town. That being said, in talking with quite a few people in town, Springfield, he lived in Springfield. He didn't have a beard there either. And you drive down, I drive past CWLP every day. They got a beautiful sign on the side. It says, Mr. Lincoln City, beard and a top hat. I can't vote for this because overwhelmingly people believe beard and a top hat is what they think of when they think of Mr. Lincoln. I recently participated in the world's largest gathering of Mr. Lincolns, and one of the requirements was beard and a top hat. That and the cost is probably nominal for the patches of the police vehicles and such, but I just can't wrap my head, and my constituents are having a hard time not envisioning Mr. Lincoln without his beard and top hat. So that being said, I would be a no vote on this.
Tracy?
I'm going to be a little more petty than that. Or silly, depending on how you take it. So I got to looking at this symbol. I actually like it, and I support it. But I just can't get over what appear to be stars in the outer circle. And in having discussions with a couple people this week, I know this is going to sound silly, but they could either be perceived as a religious symbol or as a symbol associated with witchcraft, a six-sided star. And so I would only ask, should we move forward by putting that on there? Well, Paul, depending on who you talk to, I know a few people who don't like your badge. So, no, I'm just saying, if this is the symbol of the city, is that something that could possibly be brought up?
Steve?
I don't care which way we go. I just said that I would bring it up.
Could the stars look more like your badge?
They do look like.
Well, at the tips are a little more rounded, I can
put the tips. I can put round tips on them, or I can just make it into a star. It doesn't matter. It's good. Somebody brought it up. If there's an issue,
I honestly think a star would be better.
Hey, at least Abe's face hasn't been other than no beard and hat. But
put a star on it, and I'm good with no beard.
I didn't notice the star thing at all, honestly, but you're kind of right. Can we just remove the stars?
I think the stars could be in there, but just an actual 5-sided star and not a 6-sided. Because if somebody else brought that to my attention already, what's the likelihood of someone else doing it?
Ron?
Yeah, I didn't see that until you said that. I suppose that could be perceived that way. I suppose if we want to approve the seal and allow that it can be tweaked and then come back with,
sure.
I think we can work with that, and I'd be happy to work with the chief further on that. To Alderman
It'll take me a
Bateman's.
couple minutes.
What's that?
Only take a couple minutes. It'll take longer to save it and send it back to you guys.
Yeah, to Alderman Bateman's point. I understand, and certainly the Abraham Lincoln that people know is the beard and the top hat. But I'm pretty proud of the fact that this is the Abraham Lincoln that we knew. And I actually personally wish that we could have had the Guinness Book of World Records without the beard and top hat, but that was their decision and not ours. But thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
No.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Okay, moving down to announcements. First, Rio Downtown is opening tomorrow at 11 a.m. So just so everybody knows, they are in the new location across from Abe's, which used to be the Bartolome building back in the day. So that opens tomorrow at 11. Nyla, you have a ribbon cut, correct? Do you want to?
We have a ribbon cut on Saturday at Dr. Drew Hatter's office. That is Central Illinois Direct Care. The cut will be at 11:45 a.m. The address is 1411 North Kickapoo Street.
Ron?
Thank you, Mary. Just for clarification, so there is no ribbon cut for the restaurant opening. It's just an opening.
Yeah, at this time anyway. They're just the opening tomorrow. Kevin?
I don't know if this needs to come to the council because we voted on it and the vehicle is now in, but I have another pet peeve I'd like to talk about. We recently approved and ordered a new pickup truck for the sewer department. Before Andrew got here, he's out of the question. And in that vote, we made it clear that we wanted that truck to be ordered in yellow because it would depict the sewer department different from the street and alley department, which there is a lot of phone calls fielded of, hey, they're working down here, and you have to say, who is it? And that was the easiest and best way to differentiate the departments is by just simply asking what color the truck is. I don't agree with the wording that we have on some of our vehicles now because it's really small and you can't see it. But this truck came in white. It was ordered white. I don't know why it was ordered white. I don't know who made the decision to order it white. But that is a direct going against what the council approved. So I think we need to take some kind of direction in these departments of when the city council approves something for whatever purpose it would be, that we make sure it's followed through on. So now we have a white truck that's going to look just like the street and alley trucks with a little bitty writing on it. If he hasn't got it lettered yet, I'm almost proposing sewer department from wheel to wheel in 2-foot letters. Because it is confusing. I don't know about other aldermen, but when you take a phone call from a constituent and they say, hey, you guys are working down here, then you're scrambling trying to figure out who it was. And it could have simply just been yellow truck or white truck.
Tracy, Jeff.
So, a couple things. If we give direction to a department head, just aside from sitting at the computer with them when they push the button, we can't guarantee they're gonna order it in the same color. So, where's the fine line on micromanagement? But the other part, can we wrap it? Can we have it wrapped in yellow?
Yes, that happens all the time in my kind of business, but it was the point that it could have been just ordered in yellow. A municipal yellow is available.
Well, we can
from
be more
Dodge.
diligent in the future. In the meantime, let's wrap it and make it yellow.
Yeah, my suggestion was similar to that, and maybe, I don't know the cost involved with either the wrap, but I was just keeping it simple, doing like both doors, paint the doors. You've seen fleet vehicles do that before, where they'll paint the hood or they'll paint the door color, 2 doors of color. I mean, just an option too, so.
Steve, did you?
So do we know for sure it was ordered that way and it just didn't come in the wrong color?
Walt, did you have a?
If you're wanting to change the look of the vehicle, I would recommend maybe just putting yellow stripes on it, or a different color stripe on it, instead of doing the whole vehicle. You can put something larger than pinstripes down the side of the vehicle to identify it as a wastewater treatment plant.
Steve.
I don't know if my question was answered. Do we know that it was ordered incorrectly or that it came in wrong?
I'm just assuming it was ordered incorrectly. It's a one click on the color of white. I put it this way. If it was ordered incorrectly, why did we take delivery of it? We should have just said, hey, that's the wrong vehicle. It's happened before where I work, and we have to order a new one. Back to what Walt says, the city of Lincoln, we live in the city of Lincoln, that can be a smaller wording. It should say in very clear lettering, wastewater treatment, since now it's not a yellow truck. I was just trying to start the ball rolling for every vehicle we order from now on. Wastewater be yellow and street and alley be white.
Well,
Even if you change the color of the vehicles, or try to do that, you're still going to have the same issue with contractors. We have contractors, tree contractors that are out trimming trees, and people call and think it's us doing it. There's still going to be confusion with those different contractors doing work. So it may help a little bit, but I don't see it curing the problem completely.
Tracy.
So why don't we have, I would propose that Alderman Bateman get with Andrew and come up with some options to resolve it and then bring it back to the council.
Kim, is that okay with you?
Sure.
All right. Do we have other announcements? Beth?
I've got Comcast. Just that they've brought back the WGN America and the HD line, so look forward to that, March 24th.
Any increase in cost?
We already had that.
No, I don't think so, not at this point, but we are having a meeting with the person, the supervisor in Chicago, and Libby will be here 10 a.m. on Friday. So the committee, we do have one alderman that has resigned, so you need to ask someone else to fit in if they'd like to. To get on the committee.
I want to go back to the Comcast, because I had a resident speak to me tonight about that, and they would like to see the city look at other options as far as potential vendors to do this. They're not satisfied with Comcast. The price keeps going up, and they're on fixed income, elderly. So.
We learned in conversations with them that the contract that we have it's not a non-compete franchise agreement. Other companies can actually operate in the city of Lincoln without violating that agreement we have with them.
So the city then can also look at other entities to come in and provide.
Yeah, just keep in mind that Comcast, although other companies can come in, Comcast has laid the infrastructure out that they operate on. So that's where I think the franchise agreement comes in and why they're asking for the things that they are. So, yeah. Yeah, kind of. Yep.
Other announcements?
We've already passed and approved the bills, but I saw that you got 7 new hard drives. Was that because they're really having lots of problems? My computer's been having problems too, but I didn't know if, are those new solid state drives or what?
Yes, that's the question.
Well, that was,
So,
yeah.
yes, what happened was, Kaufman. Chris, thank you.
Yes.
Brain fart. On TV now. So her hard drive was failing. She tried to do an update, told everybody to do their updates, so she wouldn't try to do her updates. During that, it crashed the hard drive. I did a diagnostics on her computer. Her hard drive was failing. There was bad sectors on it, so we had to replace that one. Since all those computers were bought at the same time, we took the proactive steps of just replacing all those with SSD drives. So they're a lot faster now, and they should be a lot more stable. So
My problem with mine doesn't have anything.
no, yours
Okay.
was just a corruption in the
Okay.
files themselves, not the device itself. Yes.
Further announcements? Ron?
If no other announcements, I make a motion we go into executive session under 2C1 personnel.
We need to discuss, personnel fall under one of them, and then the other one was, well, I guess it all will fall under that.
Second.
Mr. Howlett?
I believe that it's also appropriate for pending litigation as well. 11.
Okay, I'm making a motion that we also go into executive session under 2C11 litigation.
Second it again.
Okay, so Ron made the motion. Kevin seconded.
This is important. Cresco Labs is having a job fair on Saturday, and they're going to hire 100 people, so please, anyone that's interested, come out. The Oasis from 10 to 4 on Saturday, the 25th. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Ron made the motion. Kevin seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn? Yes.
8:08 p.m. we will go into executive session. Thank you. And I don't believe there will be any future city business. Thank you.
All right.